My name is Sana Mehboob, and I am with the federal government in the communications field. So an experience with racism, the very first one that came to mind was unfortunately probably my first experience with racism. And it's the one that kind of haunts me probably most. And it's the one when I was a small child. So our family had just immigrated to Canada. Winnipeg is is a city that our parents used to call home. And it was an experience in school. Kids can be cruel. It's a tough age. I was in grade 5. And grade 5 was tough. It was our first year in Canada. There's a bit of a cultural shock. We came here all the time. I went to a private school back home. I knew English. All that was fine, but it was a bit of a cultural shock. So when I went into grade 6, I had gone through a lot of hurdles in grade 5, but in grade 6, there was this new student that came in to our school, and I was no longer the new student. And I was so excited that I'm going to have a friend who's also new, who's gone through everything that I've probably gone through. And I remember, and we had to choose classes. So I asked her, hey, what class are you going to go into? We should choose our classes together. And we had been friends. And she said to me, oh, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm just going to take classes with like my own people. So like not with you. And in that moment, as a 10-year-old, I didn't quite realize what was happening. But that was unfortunately my very first experience with racism that I can recall. And till this day, I think it's the childhood memory that will impact me and maybe not triggers me, but it really just hurts me a little bit more than your everyday racist experience. So that was my first experience and an example of racism. I was just kind of coming off of a year of like adjusting into a new country, and I just thought this was part of the adjustment period. And then another experience happened in another, if I may, at a sock hop, if we all remember that, where so I'm at a sock hop, and back then, so sock hop, for those who may not know, is basically a little school dance, and you kind of go dance around in circles or whatever it was. And literally I was told, hey, you can't dance in our circle, go dance with your own people. And that was another experience. And it wasn't until probably maybe little experiences like that where I was just like, wait a minute, like what's happening over here? I already feel like an outsider. Or when we moved over here, our parents in their 30s and my parents in their 30s, they sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts over here because there's just so many thoughts coming my way. But I think when I think about that right now as an adult, I feel awful that my parents not only had to leave their home and move and settle into a new country and take their kids along with them. If there's any parents out there, you may know how that may feel, but also that their small child was going through these experiences unbeknownst to them. And it felt like I was going through them alone. I do have a big brother who I could have shared with, and I don't think my brother and I talked about these experiences until last year. And so it feels awful to think about those experiences because I was a child having those experiences. So if I could go back and give myself a hug, I would. And that is also part of the reason why, I may find myself volunteering at kid organizations or charitable organizations that focus on children, because I just feel like that was such a pivotal moment in my life. And I didn't know it at the time, but I do know it now.